Hey everybody, I am back home from my year-long mission trip. This used to be my room. It is not anymore. It is my little brother's. I'm just in here because it has the best natural lighting. I just finished up doing some missions presentations at churches about my trip. And I know there are a lot of people who kind of missed out on it. So I felt really led to kind of share a lot of what I spoke on in the presentation. I have a video that I made that kind of just highlights and condenses the different countries that I visited, and then I'll just go ahead and start speaking into a lot of what I spoke on in the presentations. So enjoy! So the work varied each month, from construction work to developing youth programs to helping out at orphanages and walking into brothels and praying for the working girls there. I was able to help build church benches for indigenous reservations in Panama and work with an after-school program in the middle of Malawi where we stayed in a place without any running water, and we had to walk to a water pump and carry it in buckets on our head, and I didn't shower much that month because it was a little inconvenient. And so I've come across a lot of different people in a lot of different countries with a lot of different stories. I've looked into the young eyes of a man in prison for murder who's the same age as my teenage brother. I have looked into the eyes of a young woman whose parents abandoned her, who does odd jobs while she goes to school in order to provide for herself and her little brother. I've looked into the eyes of a little girl who's growing up in an orphanage, one of countless who was found in the middle of a rice field or in a dumpster or simply left at the side of the road. I've looked into the eyes of a woman who was sexually assaulted and barely escaped and found herself running through fields half naked, just looking for refuge. And I've looked into the eyes of an elderly man who's at the end of his life with more gaps than he has teeth, sitting in a homeless shelter with no family by his side. And I can profess with confidence that the Lord hasn't failed any of them. That He is active and He is present and He loves each of them. Now that's a really hard statement to accept. How can I have the audacity to say that we have a loving God when their lives seem so void of love? Now I'll be honest, I don't have the adequate words to express how it's true. But I can say that for as much brokenness as I've seen, I have seen an overflow of compassion and healing and joy amidst suffering. I am overwhelmed by the fact that I was able to build relationships with these people and sit beside them and listen to them and pray with them and cry with them and laugh with them and give them long hugs. And this type of love, this type of compassion, this type of grace isn't just needed out there, it's also needed right here. I want to carry the same spirit of missions wherever I am, which is simply sharing Christ's love with the person right in front of me, whether that's in Africa or Asia or here in America, here in the Bay Area. And loving a person involves more than just providing them with food or water or shelter, which are essential things and which is a lot of what I did this past year. But the greater impact on a person's life is just sitting beside them, letting them feel seen, listening to their story, looking at them as more than their circumstances and letting them know that they have a God who is above their circumstances. And I strongly urge the same for you, to simply love the person in front of you, whoever they are, wherever you are. And if the Lord calls you to overseas missions, be open to that, like I was. It was a really hard decision to quit my job and feel unsupported by certain people who just didn't think it was practical. But it wasn't about my comfort. It was about the Lord's calling in my life. And if the Lord calls you to stay and do local missions, be open to that. Because it isn't a super Christian who goes off to do overseas missions. It takes just as much faith to be content in where you are and to commit to serving your local church. I have felt so much fulfillment in the last year, working in all these different countries, serving in all these different capacities. But I have felt that same fulfillment serving at my local church the years prior, committing to leading Bible studies weekly or helping out at VBS or retreats. So wherever He calls you, carry love with you. Love the person in front of you. Look them in the eyes and let them feel seen. So that's the gist of it. Yeah. Until next time. Bye guys.